maybe I'll tell it to you in a little bit of a different way so you won't be bored. I don't really have any theories for this case, but we'll talk about that at the end. We are going to talk about Bethany Markowski tonight, and I discovered this case listening to, as usual, a podcast called Searching for Ghosts, and this case is literally like she turned into a ghost, but let me back up. Bethany was born to Johnny and Larry Markowski. They lived in Gleason, Tennessee, and Johnny described Larry as controlling and abusive, and it wasn't just physical, and it wasn't just mental, it was both. And when he started to do this to our daughter Bethany, Johnny said, "We gotta get out of here." And she saw her opportunity, and she took it. She stole about $10 from Larry while he was at work, and packed up her and Bethany's clothes and went to Bethany's school and pulled her out. Reportedly, according to Johnny, Bethany was excited. She got this big smile on her face, and she said, are we leaving, Daddy?" And while they drove, she asked her mom if her mom thought that her fingernails would grow back now that they weren't near her daddy anymore, because she bit them because he made her very nervous. I wonder then why he was given visitation after that, but so Johnny takes Bethany to her sister Lori's house, and she enrolls Bethany in a new school, and they keep this location a secret from Larry. But as we know, all secrets are not kept very well, and Larry finds out where Bethany is, and he goes crazy. He drives to the school where Johnny has enrolled Bethany, and he busts in there. He goes to Bethany's classroom, and he grabs her by the arm, and he tries to just take her from the school. In fact, he got into like a physical altercation with one of the teachers, which I totally believe, because I mean, they don't even know this guy, and he's storming in trying to take one of their students, and she was reportedly screaming, which I totally understand. So, the teachers are intervening, other teachers are coming out and just trying to prevent whatever this is from happening. I guess he does eventually get separated from Bethany, and this is when Johnny decides, I've got to file a restraining order on this guy. We just can't do this anymore. So they are in the midst of an intense divorce and custody battle where he is finally granted every other weekend and 2 phone calls a week. Johnny describes Bethany as someone with a big heart and a huge personality to go with it. She said that Bethany had, like most 11-year-old girls that I know, a sort of an attitude, and she was very selfless and thought about other people all the time. Unfortunately, Johnny would never see Bethany grow up. On Sunday, March 4th of 2001, 11-year-old Bethany Markowski vanished. Now, the details of this are not very forthcoming. Of course, her life is in upheaval. The parents are fighting. They finally agreed to this visitation plan, and I get the feeling that maybe Bethany was not say, I don't want to go. Anyway, so since Johnny has filed this restraining order on Larry, they have to use someone else to do the child swap is the thing that I think of, but for him to pick up Bethany, he can't be around Lori. He can't be around Johnny. Lori is the aunt. So they meet up in about the halfway point on Interstate 40 at the Waverly exit. And this weekend, March 4th, was Larry's second visitation with Bethany. I don't know much about how the first one went. I didn't really find any information about that. So, Larry and Bethany had a pretty good visit from what I could tell. The only thing that I found was that the pair of them had traveled to Little Rock, Arkansas, I guess to visit some of Larry's friends, and they drove back overnight into Sunday morning. Early Sunday morning, March 4th, around 9:30, Bethany called Johnny on the phone, and she spoke with her mom, and they chatted a little, and she said, I'm gonna see you tonight, right, Mama? And Johnny said, yeah, I'll see you at 5 after your aunt picks you up. And they told each other that they loved her and got off the phone. So, that evening, around 5, according to Johnny, Lori could not get a hold of Bethany or Larry. She tried to call him, but he didn't answer. She says Larry eventually called her back, and he told her that he and Bethany had stopped at the mall, Old Hickory Mall, in fact, in Jackson, Tennessee, around 2:30 p.m. So Lori starts to get confused because she's like, well, it's 5 o'clock. What's going on? So Larry starts to explain, we stopped at the mall because Bethany wanted to see her old hangouts. They had lived in Jackson for a few years, so he, I guess, was, fully confident that she would be fine. And he lets her go into the mall all alone. He, being tired from driving back from Little Rock the night before, decides that he's gonna take a nap in the van while she goes into the mall. He never really said anything about whether or not she was going into the mall for something specific. I don't know if she was just kind of going in there to just go in there, maybe hoping to see some of her old friends. It was a Sunday, so I don't really know, but he mentions that she wanted to go to Claire's in the game room, but not that she was going after any, earrings or anything. So they get to the mall around 2, and he stretches out in the backseat of the van, and he takes a nap. Now, this is where things get a little sketchy. Little sketchy. First of all, I read that his nap was approximately 30 minutes. And then I read that it was 2 hours. So, I don't know, Larry. I feel like that's a long time to leave your 11-year-old alone in the mall. I'm sure that she could find something to do in the mall for 2 hours, but did she have any money? I don't know. Okay, so let's just say it was 30 minutes. He gets up, goes in the mall, looks around, looks everywhere, he says, but he can't find her. The part that makes me think that it was actually 2 hours is he doesn't notify mall security until 5:15 p.m., which is way more than 2 hours, but, so mall security starts searching, and they alert the police department, but not until 6:05 p.m. They start searching everywhere, and almost immediately after she goes missing, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigations show up. A woman named Kathy Ferguson. She remembers searching the mall for Bethany. She gets Actually, she's very, like, personally involved in this case, which I am kind of fascinated by. I like it when people take, like, you know, emotional, because it means they try harder. Anyway, so she said, Agent Ferguson, me, and the other investigators personally went into the mall, and we looked. We collected every single surveillance video from every store that had any. It's 2001, so I imagine a lot of them did, but not all of them. Johnny rushes to Jackson, Tennessee. Johnny's her mom, remember, along with Lori and her brother-in-law to help in the search for Bethany. Now, by the time they got there, both the Tennessee and federal bureaus of investigation were there. And Johnny said that she just hoped, well, maybe she's hiding, maybe her and Larry got into an argument, maybe she's just scared somewhere. But Bethany was nowhere to be found. Agent Ferguson said that after conducting interviews and looking at the security videos, investigators were not able to corroborate that Bethany had ever even been at the mall. Interestingly enough, video surveillance of the mall does not show Bethany entering or being in the mall on the day of her disappearance. But the absence of evidence does not mean the evidence of absence, at least according to the quote I read. This led investigators to suspect that Larry was abducting Bethany to kind of prevent this temporary custody agreement from going through. I kind of believe that a little myself, but we'll see. Suspicions against Larry grew as he and Johnny pointed fingers at each other. Detectives heard them both out and took them seriously, but came to the conclusion that Bethany was likely abducted by someone who was not Larry or Johnny. But Johnny doesn't buy it. She told the police that she taught Bethany to make a scene if anyone ever tried to kidnap her. She said that they even practiced what to do, that there was no way anyone could have taken her out of that mall without making a scene, without her kicking and screaming and throwing a huge fit. Now, I think that's very strange, that if that were true, no one saw anything. I find it weird that she's not on the surveillance videos and that no one saw her make a scene. Anyway, sorry, let me keep going. Now, Bethany's case remains open for both the Jackson Police Department and the Tennessee Bureau of Investigations, but no suspects or persons of interest have been named in this case. Larry has never been charged with any wrongdoings, and he denies having anything to do with it. The Searching for Ghosts podcast that I believe I mentioned at the beginning of this, I did try to film this a couple times. That was how I discovered this case, if I didn't. They much, and her shoes were torn and incorrectly tied. I mean, really, the details that people notice. And this woman may have been suffering from a hangover. When the school told the woman that they would need Bethany's previous school records, she told them that she was Bethany's aunt and that she would have to talk to her dad because he had that information. This woman and little girl left the school and never returned. My computer is frozen up. Oh, we're doing so good. Anyway, in late April, a girl matching Bethany's description was seen 3 consecutive days in Cleveland, Tennessee, in a restaurant, like a little diner, with another woman, or maybe it's the same woman. The pair showed up at this cafe every day for 3 days, and supposedly, according to Johnny, this woman kept trying to use the payphone, but it didn't, whatever it was, didn't pan out because this woman started to get more and more upset every day that she couldn't get a hold of whoever she was trying to get a hold of. By this time, the police were notified, and the woman and child boarded a bus to Moline, Illinois. But when this bus stopped, the woman and little girl, because she's only 11, were not aboard. A police sketch has been made of this woman, and some people speculate that she looks like Johnny, and Larry thinks that she looks like Johnny's mother. However, Johnny, of course, believes that she looks like Larry's sister-in-law, but no one has ever been able to identify this woman. In 2017, so 16 years later, a woman was found passed out on a front porch in Knoxville, Tennessee. She claimed to be Bethany, but this was later debunked. I don't know why you would do that. Maybe you don't want people to know who you are. So, after all these years, neither parent can be completely ruled out. But investigators have said she could have been abducted by a stranger. One thing that they're confident about is Bethany's disappearance was not a runaway situation. Agent Ferguson, who personally searched the mall, said, while Bethany's disappearance is an ongoing investigation, tips do still periodically come in. Thousands of leads have been vetted, and someone will call in, and maybe they've seen somebody that looks like her now, and they will investigate. Bethany's mother, Johnny, has never given up hope. She's been a relentless advocate for her daughter on social media. She has placed Bethany on every missing persons list that she can find. She even worked with a state representative to create the Tennessee Missing Child's Day to spread awareness and gain support for children like her daughter. Tennessee Missing Child's Day falls on the anniversary of Bethany's disappearance, March 4th. Johnny said that day is still seared into her mind and she could never forget it. We're still looking. We're not giving up. No mother ever wants to think that their child is not alive without any proof. But there are days when I question even that. Larry waited many years to give an interview about this case. And, he was questioned about what he thought about this mystery woman and why she tried to enroll Bethany in school. And like I said, he said that it was Johnny's mother and that he thought somebody took Bethany. And when he was asked if he thought she was still alive, he said, yes, I've never felt that anything else. I believe somebody has her and she's gonna come home just like JC Dugard. I follow stuff. I don't care if they smear me. All I care about is my daughter. I love my daughter with all my heart. And they asked him, do you, Larry Markowski, have any involvement in your daughter Bethany's disappearance? And he said, absolutely not. So what happened to Bethany Markowski that day at the mall in Jackson, Tennessee? She was old enough to retain her memories, so you think that she would alert someone. It's confusing all around, but I don't see how the father wasn't involved on some level. So, I quite agree with this part. I think he had to be involved somehow. But I don't really know. I find it very, very strange that she wasn't on any surveillance videos in the mall. Now, I never found a specific number of videos, but they never saw her go in. They never saw her in any stores. Now, she's 11, so what's not to say she wasn't going into the big department stores like Macy's or JCPenney. She wanted to go to Claire's. Claire's is sort of a small store. Maybe they don't have, video footage, but I find it odd that even the mall itself wouldn't have some kind of interior cameras, just of, the common areas, and that she wasn't spotted anywhere. I find it strange that it was over 2 hours before he told anyone, that he just searched the whole mall by himself and then went to the security, who then took 45 more minutes to go to the police. I think that it's pretty logical that he would have wanted to keep her from Johnny as a form of control if he was as abusive and manipulating and terrible as she said he was. But I also think that, like that Redditor said, she's old enough to have her own memories. But then you have to think about, because I thought, well, wouldn't she be in school? Wouldn't she say something to someone in school? We were talking about this at my job the other day. Does anyone remember the Sean Hornbeck case from right here by me in Missouri? He went to school. He never told anyone who he really was until the police showed up at the apartment where his kidnapper was keeping him, like 8 years later. So maybe the father has threatened Bethany with this. Maybe she's in Mexico, maybe she's homeschooling. I mean, by now she would be done. But I don't know. I think it's strange that he went to sleep and let his 11-year-old go to the mall by herself. I don't know, guys. What do you think about this case? I just think that the absence of any evidence at all, is very weird. Now, the people that they went to visit in Little Rock did say they saw her. She was unharmed. She was happy. She was fine. They were really there. I do think it's strange. Why would he? But he had plenty of time. If he dropped her somewhere between Arkansas and Tennessee, goodness knows, some other friend's house, I don't know. He had plenty of time to get to the mall where she supposedly disappeared. Honestly, this case could go so many directions. I don't think that the mom took her and hid her somewhere. Obviously, she's mourning her child so many years later, 19 years later. It's just, every time that a child goes missing, it just makes me so sad. But I don't think that I have ever covered a case with this little detail. She went into the mall. guys need suggestions. I think I'm gonna film a ramble video for you guys sometime soon. I tried to make Sean film one with me, but he wouldn't do it. I think he's camera shy. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching and for being here. I love each and every one of you, and I will talk to you very, very, very soon.